Versatile musician, guitarist, vocalist, composer, producer, and arranger, Steve Lukather was born in Los Angeles on October 21st in 1957. Before his father bought him a guitar and a copy of Meet the Beatles at the age of 7, Luke started to play drums and keyboards. He said, "I love keyboards. I write all my songs on keyboards except for the real obvious burn tunes. I find it much easier. You have all these great synth sounds and you play a C chord and it sounds like God, and you start thinking melodies as opposed to chops." In the years following, Lukather taught himself how to play the guitar. He hung out with older friends who showed him how to play and how to set the chords. At high school, he met the Porcaro brothers, who were a couple of years older than him. Jeff Porcaro and David Paich were already doing session stuff. He said, "I was self-taught until about 15, and then I started taking lessons with Jimmy Wyble. He taught me how to read, and I took a lot of other classes, like orchestration. I wanted to learn. At that point, I was really intrigued by the whole session thing. It wasn't something I wanted to do since I was a little kid. I didn't know anything about it until I was in high school. I always thought it was kind of cool to be able to play on all these great artists' records." During his high school period, especially Jeff Porcaro turned out to be like a brother and mentor for Steve Lukather. Jeff was like my mentor. He was a guy that I first looked up to. He and the whole Porcaro family had so much to do with my getting a break in the music business. Jeff was already in Steely Dan when I met him. That was 1972, and growing up in that whole environment was a gift. We learned the whole Katy lied Steely Dan record before it ever came out. After playing and touring with Boz Scaggs, David Paich and Jeff Porcaro asked Steve Lukather, Bobby Kimball, David Hungate, and Steve Porcaro in 1976 to join for their own band Toto. In the meantime, David Paich, Jeff Porcaro, and people like Jay Graydon involved Lukather more and more in the session business. In the late 70s and the 80s, Lukather showed himself a first-class and first-called session musician who played with everybody on the planet. Toto was Dave and Jeff's band and vision. I was 19 and so honored to be invited in. You gotta dig, these guys were and still are my heroes. I still can't believe they chose me. It was my personal dream come true, and that's why I stepped up to the plate when someone had to. Paich and Jeff are soul brother. I use that in the present tense because when Jeff died, so did our leader. Paich was the brains and tunesmith, but Jeff was the spirit and soul. You can't do one without the other. Critics will never understand just how real this band was, and still is. Yeah, after 4 lead singers and me being with the band from day one, I picked up the ball and ran with it. Someone had to. I have never been or will ever be the leader of Toto. In September 1977, Toto released their first album, Toto, that generated the hit singles Hold the Line, I'll Supply the Love, and Georgie Porgy. With the album, David Paich and Steve Lukather started a more than 35 years Toto career. As the diagram in this website points out, Lukather did some minor contributions to the songwriting in the first years of the Toto career. The year 1982 turned out to be the most successful in Toto's and Lukather's career. Lukather, Paich, and Jeff and Steve Porcaro contributed heavily to Michael Jackson's Thriller album, that turned out to be the most successful album in music history ever. The album Toto 4 went platinum, and the hit singles Rosanna and Africa became all-time classics. A year later, Toto received 6 Golden Gramophones at the Grammy Awards in relation to Toto IV, and Lukather gained a Grammy for Best Rhythm and Blues Song Turn Your Love Around, co-written with Jay Graydon and Bill Champlin. In 1992, right after the Kingdom of Desire recordings, Lukather had to cope with one of the most heavy losses in his life, the sudden death of his brother and mentor, Jeff Porcaro, who died of a heart attack after an allergic reaction to a pesticide he was spraying in his garden. A few weeks before the Kingdom of Desire tour, the 3 Toto members, Steve Lukather, David Paich, and Mike Porcaro, decided to go ahead with the tour and asked Simon Phillips, who toured with Lukather before in Japan, to replace Jeffrey. This decision turned out to be a lucky one, because Simon developed himself as an integrated member of Toto and a very stimulating musical partner for Lukather and his band Los Lobotomies. After the Kingdom of Desire tour, Lukather apparently had to change his mind on his life and on his musical career. On the Toto album, Tambu, he and his musical mates did a lot of personal reflection in the lyrics of the songs. During their Japanese tour in 1998, Carlton and Lukather recorded a couple of shows. In 2001, they released a selection of songs recorded in the Blue Note in Osaka. in November 1998 on their live album No Substitutions. In 2004 and 2005, Lukather contributed to new albums and songs of some old musical friends like Van Halen, Joe Cocker, Edgar Winter, Les Paul and Friends, and Tommy Lee. On top of touring with Toto and his own band, Lukather spent a lot of time in the studio in 2005 with his Toto mates to record the new Toto album, Falling in Between, released in 2006 and followed by a major world tour in 2006 and 2007 and the first months of 2008, ending up with a Japan tour together with Boz Scaggs in March 2008, which makes the Toto circle round. From September 2006 till the summer of 2007, during the spare weeks he wasn't on tour with Toto, Lukather worked on his fifth solo album, Ever-Changing Times, encouraged by his longtime co-writing friend Randy Goodrum. The results of this new studio effort, released in February 2008, are 11 songs which incorporate all aspects Steve Lukather is well known for. After the release of his solo album, Ever-Changing Times in 2008, Lukather decided to leave Toto, which meant the end of the band, and focus on his solo career. In April 2010, he got the International Eddie Christiani Award for 33 years of guitar mastership. In the meantime, Lukather started a heavy touring schedule with Bill Evans, Goodfellas, his own band, and Toto. The small Toto tour in Europe was set up to help out Mike Porcaro, who's suffering from ALS. The tour was that successful that Toto decided to be back in 2011 and 2012. They even decided to tour more heavily from 2013 to celebrate their 35th anniversary. Also, touring-wise, 2013 was a very busy and successful year. Started with Ringo Starr and his all-star band in Oz, New Zealand and Japan in February, and then the European solo tour promoting Transition. Then Toto Europe in the summer, jumped on Peter Frampton's guitar circus back to Toto USA and Curaçao, and then Ringo and his all-star band in South America, Mexico and Vegas. In 2014, Toto recorded a new studio album, their first since Falling in Between. During the last weekend of January 2014, Steve Lukather performed with Ringo Starr at the Grammy Awards. In March 2015, Toto released Toto 14, the band's first album of new material since 2006's Falling in Between. However, the band personally considered the new album to be the true follow-up to Toto 4, which made the band global superstars. The 2018 festivities will also include an appearance by the band on Family Guy, as well as the publication of Lukather's memoir, The Gospel According to Luke, which including material about his voluminous session and solo career, as well as his life in general. But he says the tone will be celebratory, as will the rest of Toto's 40th anniversary activities.